Kind of windy today, so I'm glad there's a filter over a wind screen over the top of the recorder. Uh, Okay, so today I thought I would just scoot around, and since it's such a nice day in Minnesota, first 70-degree weather in the whole year so far. So what I'm thinking is talking about things and just uploading it and seeing if it's interesting to anybody. But today, after I get past this raging water, it's going to be loud. Woo! All right. I wanted to talk about the 3 times in your life as a musician that you're going to have the most time to dedicate to learning your instrument. Because somebody brought something up the other day and they were just like, are musicians lazy or something? What's going on? Like, I have a band and the bass player shows up and he never has the songs ready. What? It just seems like it happens all the time, you know? Like, are musicians just inherently lazy? So I thought I would make a video and just talk about how, yeah, you know, I've played with hundreds and hundreds of musicians in my life, maybe 1,000 by now. And I've noticed that too, but I've also noticed that it changes depending on what time of life people are in, you know? So what phase, basically. Because in the beginning, I'll start when I started, like 13. You're at that age where you're in junior high, you know, and or middle school, whatever it is nowadays. Showing my age when I say junior high, I guess. And, you know, you go to school all day, you get home, you might have like an hour to decompress, and then you have dinner, and then usually you have homework, and that's a big reason why I had such bad grades, is because I never did homework. But hang on one second. So I was always like a D student, like a C- student, barely getting by, because I'd get home and right away I would just, you know, I'd watch a little TV sometimes, crack open a 2-liter of Dr. Pepper, and afterwards I would just go to my bedroom and I would play guitar. And I didn't have internet, so there was nothing distracting me. And I would go up for dinner and stuff, but afterwards it was back in my room playing until like 10 o'clock. If I had homework to do, if I didn't have a study hall, by the way, study hall was like gold back then because you could do your homework in there. It was great. But I would try to like slap together some figures and get homework done around 10 o'clock after my fingers are super sore. And, you know, I usually felt pretty good because I felt like I put in a lot of good practice. And then, yeah, so D student is a result of that. But I got really good at something else besides school, and it paid off, thank goodness. But the time I had the most time during all that was, you know, summer vacation. So the people who really dedicated themselves to school, their only real time to have an open day to practice a lot would be during summer vacation. So it's the first phase of life, I think, when you have the most time to dedicate to really what they call woodshedding. That's what my friend called it, so I call it that from now on. That's just like where you just buckle down and all you do is practice. You just shut off all the other distractions, you know. And then people, you know, they graduate, maybe they go to college, and you have some time there, you know, in between, you know, breaks or during breaks. But during college life, people are busy socializing and partying and hopefully studying, going to class. And it doesn't seem like, unless you're kind of a slacker in college, that you're going to have a ton of time to really just break through and get to the highest levels as a musician that you can get to. We're talking, you know, hours and hours a day. And so that is usually kind of a busy time for people. They can't really dedicate what they want to the instrument. But it's also a good time to meet other people who play and, you know, start maybe having a jam session every once in a while. That could lead to a full-fledged band eventually. So there's kind of a trade-off at that time period. Afterwards, though, you know, you're going to hopefully get a job or something, and you realize the crushing nature of having a job when you get to that level, because you're like, oh man, the fun is over, you know, unless it's a job you love, which is rare right off the bat. And let's see if I can cross without dying. It'd be a really sad way to go, capturing it on film like this or on video. So after college, the most time you've had up until then to really crack down on your playing is the summer vacation during grade school. Now you have a job. A lot of people end up getting, a mortgage eventually. These days it's more like just renting, it seems like, but hang on one second. Ooh. Sorry. Thanks. And what ends up happening is people just lose all their energy because they're sitting, I'm just going to be very generic here, sitting, let's say, in a cubicle. I've been watching Severance, so it's been on my mind, but sitting in a cubicle all day, just sitting down for that long a period at a place you don't really want to be just sucks the life out of you. And then people come home after work and they just want to, veg out. And it just seems like, they watch TV to decompress, and then they have dinner, and maybe they have a drink or two afterwards to just forget the day. Next thing you know, after you've had a few drinks, it's hard to really focus on anything seriously. The only exception to that, I would say, is live playing. If you had a couple and you're on stage, you will focus in a different way. That's usually helpful to some people. I don't want to promote it, but I'm just saying a lot of people who have anxieties and stuff, they're able to calm down on stage if they had a couple, so. But those years are really tough for people to just really get into music. And the sad part of that is that it would really, I think, be therapeutic after work to just pick up the guitar instead of picking up the remote control, or jumping on the internet. But that's just human nature. You want kind of the easiest thing. You don't want to sit down and get more frustrated because you can't play some guitar lick or something, After that, you go on for a while and maybe you meet somebody. Next thing you know, you're married. I'm being really generic here, I know. Hang on. I love when people wear earbuds because then I can still talk. I don't know why I just have hang-ups about talking out loud like this while people are around, so hang on one second. Hey. Excuse me. Thanks. Then people get married, let's say, and it gets to the point where it's like, good luck, for the first few years. I'm not married, but from what my friends have told me, your whole life is your marriage, and then maybe you're going to start to have kids. And once that happens, good luck. We're talking no time at all to do anything. There have been a few rare exceptions at my friend group where someone has a spouse who's really cool about their hobbies, and they're just like, yeah, you go do your time, and then, that's kind of a cool time, but it's still not the second biggest time where you're going to be, or the best time when you're going to be able to really practice. Once the kids get older, this is what I see a lot. The kids start to leave the house a little bit more. The dad or mom are just like at home. They're like, okay, we've taken care of a lot of things. The kids are out of the house for a while. Maybe they haven't moved out yet, but they just kind of go to their friends and they hang out and stuff now. So it's like, oh, I can go hit the basement again and pick up the guitar. And that's a pretty good time, but you still have, obviously a lot of obligations to take care of if people are living in the house together like that. It isn't until the kids, move out that I really see people buckling down again and getting jam sessions going. And, we're going to get the band back together kind of stuff. Because the basement's pretty lonely and empty now, so you might as well fill it up with instruments and maybe a band practice space. You see a lot of that going on, which is really cool. And I see a lot of my students back in the day, their dads would get into it right around the time the kids got old enough to, leave the house a lot. So it was cool to see that. So that's going to be your second time in your life that you're going to have the most time to dedicate to your craft. But at this point, you're probably at a point with your playing that you're decent enough to jam. So I think jamming becomes a lot more instrumental in your life, pardon the pun, But it's a lot of fun. Now you have a brand new way of expressing yourself musically. You have friends, hopefully, that come by and jam with you, and you can play your favorite songs. And you start to think, man, I wish I could have put more time into actually getting good, because you could be at different levels at this point, obviously. So I think a huge part of it is what you put in when you were in your teens, because it's like that was the time to really cultivate where you're going to be level-wise. And when life takes over, it's kind of a crapshoot where you're going to end up, maybe a little bit of practice here, a little bit of practice there. So now you're to the level where you're jamming with people, you're glad you have some skill at all, and you have time to do that finally. So that's the second time period. And then obviously the third time period is after retirement, when it's like, okay, I used to get up every day and go to work. I see what happened to my dad after he retired. And now it's like I'm not doing anything. I have all this free time. Hopefully, maybe I work on the lawn a few days, but during the winter time, I'm inside. There's your chance to really go at it again. Unfortunately, when you're at a certain age, depending on how much you took care of yourself or your health conditions, you might have trouble being able to play things you want to play. Let's say you're a huge shred guy or girl or whatever, and you want to do it up, but you're like 60 or 70 now, and you just can't get your hands to physically play like that anymore. That's a huge thing I see when I had older students. They would come in and they were just frustrated because they wanted to play something like, maybe even just like a Tom Schultz solo from Boston. And they're like, man, I can't reach like that. It's crazy. It's because their whole lives, their hands have been sort of, being overused and calcifying over time, and just things get kind of crazy. So that's why I teach the finger yoga all the time on my site. But when you're older and you want to practice, you suddenly have all this time in the world, but you don't always have the physical capabilities to play what you want to play. That's why I love when people come in and they want to play like, just Clapton riffs, or they just want to play things that aren't super taxing on your hands. So maybe they just want to play, just a couple of power chords or something. I think that's great, or open chords, and sing. That's the irony of life. Like, by the time you're wise enough to know you should be practicing and really, hitting the woodshed as a musician, usually you're at an age where your body just can't keep up with what you want to do now. But so I would say it goes in order. The most crucial time to dedicate the most focus and attention on your playing would be, grade school days on summer vacation, or after school if you want to be a slacker. A slacker for schoolwork, I'm talking. The next would be if you have kids, once your kids get a little bit older and they start leaving the house a little bit, or I should say the next one would really be after they left the house, so the empty nest syndrome. The parts where the kids are leaving for a while each day, that's just a build up to the actual time when they leave for good. And then the last time is after retirement. Once again, it's a bit ironic, but that's how life is. They say youth is wasted on the young, But either way, hopefully that was somewhat informative. I know I've talked about a little bit of this before, but I don't think I ever broke it down into 3 actual time periods in people's lives. So that's all I got. I'm going to put in my earbuds and listen to some music now. So we'll catch you later. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.